So today I decided to make a video about INTPs and depression, and it's a video that was asked for me to do by another person in the comments, and what our, I guess, relationship is, or how often we get depressed, and how, in what way, what depresses us, what makes us sad, and how we, I guess, how we handle that situation. Um, but first of all, I want to define what depression is, because even though I think most people have a rudimentary idea of what depression is and the symptoms and everything, um, I want to define it according to the American Psychiatric Association. What is depression? Depression, a major depressive disorder, is common and serious medical illness that negatively affects how you feel, the way you think, and how you act. Fortunately, it is also treatable. Depression can cause feelings of sadness and or loss of interest in activities you once enjoyed. It can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems and can decrease your ability to function at work and at home. Symptoms must last at least 2 weeks and must represent a change in previous behavior. So this is all according to the definition of American Psychiatric Association. Now that I've defined what depression is, it's obviously a very small definition, but I'll leave the link in the description if you want to read everything. How do we get depressed? The causes of how INTPs get depressed. Obviously, I'm not a psychologist, and I don't know any more of this than probably any of you out there. I can only speak for myself, I guess. So, in my personal case, what depresses me or what makes me sad? Like I said in a previous video about nihilism and about philosophy and the interests that I have and other INTPs have, the feeling of not having purpose, of your work not having any meaning, or that being in the end useless, is obviously not something that anyone wants to hear about their work, that there is absolutely no reason for them to do that. And obviously you don't hear this like at work or in school. I think I've never heard that, and I'd never heard anyone say it to anyone, but the idea that you can have of not being fruitful, of you wasting your energies on something that in the end will serve its purpose, but intrinsically it will have no purpose. Like studying. You can study, like, I'm in college, so I have to study sometimes if I want to pass and if I want to not stay behind. So obviously the idea of studying so that you have a better grade, so that you have a better opportunity to increase your average, so that you can go to a better university if you want to, or find a better job and having more opportunities. Obviously it's not worthless in the physical world, I guess, because obviously studying serves the purpose of increasing your abilities, of making you more efficient in the future, a better professional or whatever. Although if you are depressed and if you get to the conclusion that there's no point in studying, there's no point in really doing anything at all, because there's many reasons why people can arrive at this seemingly weird conclusion, that no matter what you do, it's kind of a loop, it's you wake up, you go to school, you study, you sleep, and you wake up again, and it becomes a cycle. I don't know, it takes all the fun out of doing stuff. Routine kind of kills us, I think. INTPs like to have freedom of thought, freedom of action, and routine can actually destroy us. I think, at least in my opinion, it kind of does. I really hate schedules, like I said in previous videos. So how do we get depressed? Routine is probably one of the reasons that doesn't really help. It's one of the things that doesn't really help us. Again, we like freedom of thought and freedom of action, so being forced to have stuff to do is not a good thing. INTPs have many interests, and depending on the interest, depending on how they are, depending on their personality, depending on the interest, depending on how deep they connect with the interests, it may depend on how depressed or how easily depressed you can get. For example, in my case was probably nihilism. It began maybe with physics and understanding that it's just laws. It's what the universe and reality actually is, just laws working together to compose this idea of reality that we have. And obviously it kind of takes the charm out of reality, doesn't it? Just knowing that it's nothing special, just a matter of laws working together to create whatever this is. And then philosophy, in the case of nihilism, kind of made me depressed for a while, and without any kind of... I couldn't see really joy. Neither on studying physics, that was something that I like, nor on studying philosophy, nor on studying psychology, that is my what I'm doing in university, studying psychology, nor studying anything at all, nor hanging out with anyone. It was more like, I don't want to do anything, just leave me alone for a bit and I'll come back later. Like, it kind of sucks. And this is how we get depressed, maybe. Just a feeling of not being and not having a saying in what you are thinking or feeling. It's just something that is, I don't know, it's weird. For how long? Again, this depends on the INTP, depends on the kind of nihilist that you're... doesn't even have to be nihilistic in essence, it's just a matter of sadness. Although Nietzsche did say that the beginning of sadness is the beginning of nihilism. But I don't know for how long do we get depressed. It's just a matter of personality, depends on the topic that you get depressed about or on, depends on you, depends on the means on which you got depressed or the means that you have now to try to get rid of depression. The consequences are obvious, and they are, I've already talked about them in the beginning, I think, and the consequences are this, that you become lazy more than usual, being that we are INTPs. You become kind of soft, like all the interest that you had in the world and in things is taken away from you, and you become weird. Psychologically, it kind of, like, it hurts psychologically, and you know that it's not a pleasant situation that you are in, and socially you can maybe, like, since you don't want to hang out anymore and you don't want to do anything with others, you just want to stay by yourself by your own. It may suck socially too. And then you have recovery, that is, how do you come back from this state of just not caring and being on your own a bit? You kind of have to want to. If you don't want to get out of that state, then I don't think you can, especially being an INTP, because we live mostly on our minds. Other types mostly like to live in the present and in the real world, and they give a lot of importance to the sensory realm or feelings and all that. No, we like more intellectual grounds. We like, again, truth, logic, things that can be proven, evidence and all that. So being like this and being this way, the only thing you need to be sad is yourself, your mind, so it can be difficult for an INTP to get rid of depression, because the thing that is hurting you is yourself, is your mind. It's the way you think about stuff and the way you interpret the world and the way that things are. And you can't... How do you make your mind stop with those thoughts? Because they become repetitive after a while. Again, seek help or talk about this with someone that is either depressed or was or understands, but mostly seek help. If you can't, because clinical depression, you can't get out of it by yourself. You actually need help. So if that is the case with nihilism and with sadness and with INTPs being sad, then I guess that we just need to seek help, which is something that we don't like, and it's something that we like to self-diagnose ourselves, I guess. I did that for a while. But we can't do that. We can't be like alone forever, I guess. We need others sometimes, even if we don't like to admit it, or even if we don't like them, we need them sometimes. So that's how you recover. You seek help and you try to minimize the way or the thoughts that you are having. Instead, imagine if you have 100 bad thoughts a day, try to make it 70 or 50. It's really that expression that INTPs hate, of shutting down your brain, like turn it off for a bit. And it's kind of impossible for us, but try, or in my opinion, it was kind of what I did, like shut it down for a bit, try to think about other stuff, focalize your attention on things that have nothing to do with the area or the ideas that are making you sad or depressed. I don't know, like watch a movie or start a series that you like, talk with people, try to study something that you know that has nothing to do with the ideas that are making you sad. In other words, put your attention on something else. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult, because again, it is our own mind that is doing that to us. So, and again, because we are INTPs, we live inside that mind, our own mind. So it may be difficult for us to get out of it. Does intelligence have anything to do with it? And I'm mentioning this because the person in the comments mentioned intelligence as being a potential factor for why INTPs got depressed. Like, I'm sure there are INTPs that are dumb. It doesn't matter if we are seen as the most intelligent type, or if INTPs in IQ tests do better than most of other personalities. That doesn't really matter, I think. But sure, I think intelligence has something to do with it, because it's really that expression of ignorance being a bliss, and I think it's true, very true. The moment we start, especially because you're an INTP, analyzing the world, of breaking down the structures of what make the world and nature and physics and philosophy and science and psychology, the moment you start to break down what those areas are and to find out the underlying pillars of what makes them work or what makes them what they are. And I think INTPs do this all the time of just breaking down stuff to see what's inside. I think that's one of the reasons why many of us are physicists and philosophers and mathematicians and scientists in general, because we like to study things more and more. Knowing something is not enough. It needs to be put in a principle. It needs to become a law in a way. And you can only do that the more you understand about that thing, so we have to break it down more. I think intelligence has something to do with depression in general. You don't have to be an INTP. Again, if you are intelligent, then obviously depending on the intelligence, like, I'm not sure. There are many types of intelligence. I've heard, but again, intelligence is a very abstract field. We are not even sure of what intelligence is in the first place. What makes intelligence in a cognitive level? That I know of, scientists are still very adrift with it. But if you consider intelligence to be what INTPs have in this case, that is this analytical, skeptical sense that we have nearly by default, naturally, of not believing in stuff just because it makes us comfortable. That's probably one of the reasons why there are so many videos on YouTube of INTPs not being religious or of seeing religion as something illogical. Again, because and I've talked this before, that religion being something that makes us happy without providing us evidence for it, or without being true. In a way, it's kind of a drug, isn't it? It's an hallucination. And this skeptical default side that we have of breaking down stuff, of not believing in something without evidence, of wanting to understand the world in how it works and its ways. And I think, yes, maybe intelligence does play a role in it, because you need a certain skepticism, you need a certain wit, if you want to call it, a certain will of wanting to understand how things actually are, instead of just pretending that they are the way they are because something. Then yes, I guess intelligence does play a role, although I'm not convinced of how significant that role is. But yes, maybe that's one of the reasons why INTPs get depressed. I don't know if more often than the other types, I have no idea. But yes, maybe seeing the world as it is, or wanting to, and analyzing it, and not giving in to pretending that something is, and no, we like to know the truth, and we are skeptical, analytical. Yes, maybe intelligence does play a big role on how we are and why we get depressed. But I have no idea. I did not make scientific research on this topic. I didn't read any scientific study on intelligence being proven to have made people more depressed, or that more depressed people are more intelligent too. I did read something about that, actually, about something, I'm not sure if it's depressed realism, on which I didn't even know if this is true, So be aware of what I'm going to say next. I'm not sure if it's true, so if you want to know, just please do your own independent research. I'm just saying something that I saw somewhere, that in reality tests, I'm not even sure what that is or if that even exists, that are apparently tests of how the world works in its natural way, like how the world is in its most natural sense, I guess. I'm not sure about how these tests work, or even if it's a real thing, that intelligent people did classify or as having a higher degree of probability of depression, or in this case depressed people, punctuated more in reality tests. So I'm not sure. Maybe we see the world as it is, and that depresses us. I'm not sure if we can even deal with it, or if it's true. So I'll end the video here. It's getting way too long. So I don't know if INTPs are more depressed, and I'm not completely sure of what depresses us, because again, it's a matter of personality, and not everyone has the same personality. So I think that's it.